This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is David Nixon, and today we're going to round out the week by talking about the Impostor Syndrome. So I'm going to share my little story of Impostor Syndrome with you, and then I'm going to kind of pull it apart and break it down for you as well. So one of the guys in the group asked, when I put the poll, that's in the Mood Prep online group, I was like, okay, like what are some of the things that you want to talk about? I put a poll there, and one of the comments, which I love because it means it's somebody else's ideas, it's not the ideas that I put in the poll, was to talk about imposter syndrome. Now, if you're not familiar with imposter syndrome, it's effectively this syndrome that we have that kind of makes us feel like an imposter, maybe at work, or maybe on a date, or maybe in a sporting team. Basically in any endeavor where we feel like we're not quite good enough and we're going to be caught out. Someone's gonna catch us out, and then we're gonna be publicly humiliated, or our partner's gonna dump us. The boss is gonna fire us and be like, they're gonna. It's quite funny. They're gonna bring us into their office and go, David, the gig's up. You've pulled it off for quite some time. Well done. And here's all these cameras that we've had spying on you, and finally found all this evidence of your imposter syndrome. Bullshit. It's not true, right? But a lot of us will build this idea, and that's something that I kind of had as well. Even when I started working with my coach last year, my first meeting with him, he's like, "What do you want to work on?" And I said, "There's three things." And I think they're connected. And it's imposter syndrome, it was procrastination, and it was not finishing products. And fair enough, they're all somewhat connected, but I'm going to pull apart that story a bit more in a moment. But funnily enough, one of the things I wanted to do was also start a podcast. And at that stage, I didn't have any microphone equipment. I had this old computer and an idea, and that was kind of it. And so talking to him about the whole imposter syndrome and the procrastination and the not finishing projects were completely linked. It was the same fucking thing. And all it was not trusting myself. So the imposter syndrome isn't actually a syndrome, right? Like, you don't go to the doctor and the doctor goes, "Oh mate, you've got imposter syndrome, here's a drug." It's not actually a syndrome. It's just something that we tell ourselves because we trust ourselves. And so what's interesting about that and not trusting ourselves is well, there's quite a number of things that's quite fascinating about it. It's because we're often putting our ability to complete a project to a certain standard based upon somebody else's expectations. Rather than learning that everyone around you probably has and or feels the same way, we neglect to think about that. We think that the people that maybe do the things we want to do or have the things we want to have are somehow special, and someone's given them permission, which is kind of true, by the way, but someone has given them permission to be able to do those things. It's like, "Oh, David, you're now good enough to podcast by yourself, and people all around the world are going to download your podcast, so you're now allowed to start your podcast." It's like, no one fucking said that. no one said that to me. Actually, someone did. I did. But I didn't. The way that I gave myself permission, and this is the biggest thing for you guys, please take this away from this podcast. The whole giving yourself permission might sound like some sort of corny, wanky, yogi, not that those things related, guys, post on Instagram, okay? But it's not. You actually have to give yourself permission. So we often wait for permission from a higher authority. The issue is that we place that higher authority outside of us. That authority is within us. And when we ourselves give ourselves permission to fail, give ourselves permission to try, give ourselves permission to look silly, give ourselves permission to just do because it feels right, when we do that, we move away from this idea of imposter syndrome, because that's all it is. It's just an idea that one person said one time, and someone's like, "That's a really good article." Writes up an article, clickbait, boom, right? And so because of that, we're able to negate this idea of imposter syndrome by learning to trust ourselves first, by learning when we hand our authority over, by learning when we hand over the expectations to somebody else. Now, you may work in an environment where there is external expectations, and that's fine. But the reality is that it still comes down to this lack of trust in yourself. Now, what's interesting about that is that this can happen in many areas. And so once I started to see that I actually was a lack of trust in myself, I started seeing it in many other areas of my life. And it was like, right, I do it there as well. And I'm doing it there. That's interesting. And so it just became this awareness thing. And once I had that awareness, I was able to see the constructs and the rules and the dogma that I played on myself, that I played, probably placed on myself, but definitely played it out because of that. And I was like, there is no other reason why I don't have a podcast. There is no other reason why I don't have a gym, or there's no other reason why I can't have a girlfriend. There's no other besides the bullshit that I was telling myself based upon what I thought other people's expectations were. And if you break that sentence down and think about that, it sounds ridiculous, but reality had to be was that I had to be like, you know what, I'm just going to do what I want to do because it feels right, and it's a genuine thing. And so when I was able to recognize and become aware of the times that I wasn't trusting myself, I was able to go, okay, if I was to trust myself, what would that look like? And an answer would pop up, and I could do that thing, and I would move towards that thing. And so we have to look at these rules that we govern our lives by, right? These rules that are holding us back. Now, they're holding us back, and this whole, like, for me, it was not finishing things and procrastination and the imposter syndrome as a collection, right? It was like this little bundle of bullshit. And this bundle of bullshit had a positive intention. It had a positive intention because I had this deep program running, was that if I failed, like truly failed without giving myself permission, that was the key, right? Then I would get found out, and the whole fitness industry, because that's where I work predominantly, would be like just putting me down, just like basically ostracizing me, and my life would be useless, and what's the point, right? I may as well be dead was actually the term that I used off the fly, right? It was the deeper meaning that I had. And this is why I encourage you to get coaches, because there's so many of these things that are actually in our unconscious, not just subconscious, actual unconscious, that take so fucking long to bring to the surface that we aren't aware that these things are running our every fucking day decisions. It's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I just get busy. It's like, fucking stop saying that, man. Come on. You're not busy. You just got a bundle of bullshit that you need to unravel. Like, work on that. Like, that's fine. Everyone has their bundle of bullshit. It's just the people that think they don't are the idiots, right? Because when I unravel this bundle of bullshit, I'm like, oh, look at all these gifts. Now I can actually start using them. That's fantastic. And then I get this other thing in the mail called another bundle of bullshit. And then I have to unravel that. So it's like, it's okay to be able to acknowledge something like the imposter syndrome or procrastination and all that sort of stuff. Now, it's okay to acknowledge that, but then you got to get to work on it, right? Firstly, you need to know that there's a positive intention behind it. Even though that positive intention might be holding you back now, it once was a positive intention. Maybe it was because not doing things that you generally wanted to do, but listening to your parents made them happy. So you went into the uni course you didn't want to fucking do, but hey, you know what? Your parents want you to do it. And then you worked in the family business for a while. You don't want to fucking do that. You want to paint, but you know your fucking family wants you to do it, so you do that, right? Maybe you really wanted to pursue sport, and maybe you even gave up sport because your parents are like, you just get injured too much, and you know then you can't look after your little brother, and yada yada yada, right? And you start to see that these things had meaning once upon a time, but until we actually recognize the meaning in them now, or at least we recognize them for what they used to be, the use and the positive intention they used to have, until we do that, we can't get rid of them. They're going to be with us every single day. And this is why I say, like, unravel yourself every single day, because your imposter syndrome is a lie you tell yourself to keep yourself pain-free, not realizing that it's a slow decay of your life. Go back and re-listen to that sentence again, because it's so crucial to understand. Team, I hope you got a lot out of this podcast. If you know someone who you think or who talks about suffering from the imposter syndrome, I would love it if you share this podcast with them. Otherwise, as always, peace and pizza, kick today in the dick, and slay the dragon. I'll see you soon.
To be everything at once, be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.